Hello and welcome to my talk, 10 Reasons Your Application Isn't Accessible and What You Can Do About It. My name is Elise Kristiansen and I'm a front-end developer in Variant. And in my 8 years as a developer, I've seen countless of websites being launched without being properly universally designed. And that's why I've made this list with my very clickbaity title, and I'm very sorry for that. And since this is just a short talk, I will not go hard in onto how to technically solve all these issues. I'm just trying to get you aware of them and give you a little nudge on how to solve them in a very superficial manner. I will begin with some of the more technical issues and then later on move on to some of the more structural issues. And I have to say before I continue that creating a website that is universally designed is also very good for business because it helps the SEO score and you have a lot more customer range than if you don't have an accessible website. And I have to talk a little bit about the law, even though it's a little bit boring. The law is accessibility on web has been legally required in Norway for years to ensure that all websites and web apps are accessible for everyone. A website that isn't accessible is just as bad as a building without a wheelchair ramp. The law is called a Regulation on Universal Design of Information and Communication Technology, and this regulation was established under the authority of the 2008 Anti-Discrimination and Accessibility Act, which aims to prevent discrimination based on disabilities. But we are not in Norway now, so I have to talk a little bit about the regulations in the EU. The European Accessibility Act is a directive that aims to improve the functioning of the internal market for accessible products and services by removing barriers created by divergent rules in member states. And if you don't trust me that it is actually legally required, you can scan this QR code to read about the law on the EU pages. 15 to 25% of the population has some form of disability. And that's why it's so important to not exclude this many people from the digital society. It can be that one has broken a wrist, so he temporarily can't use a mouse on a computer, or sight that is slowly fading away. So you need to focus on accessibility, and it's so important. So I will help you with that. And now on to something a little bit more lighthearted and fun. My cats. This is my Bengal cats, Luna and Venus. And these cats will follow along with my presentation to give those who are kind of like me, who struggle a little bit with concentration, something to focus on during my presentation. Studies show that including pictures of cat can help maintain people's attention for longer. And the cat pictures are rarely relevant to the content of my slides, but who doesn't love a good cat picture? Now, let's begin with the list. And this is the technical issues. Issue number 1, insufficient alternative text for images and graphics. A person with blindness or deafness needs to be able to get the same information as everyone else. To detect some of these problems, you can use a scanner. A scanner will help you with a lot of these technical issues, but not all of them. And I'm trying not to repeat myself too much, so I will just give you one recommendation for an accessibility scanner I use a lot, and that's Pally. Pally is an open source accessibility testing tool that helps developers and designers identify and fix accessibility issues on websites and applications. A scanner will be able to tell you if an image or video lack any text alternative at all. However, a scanner might not be able to tell you if the image text gives enough context for the multimedia. And I will give you an example with my great Photoshop skills. An image of a cat that is trying to catch a bird might have the descriptive text, a cat and a bird. And a scanner will tell you that this is good enough because it has a text alternative. And the text also tells you what's in this image. But it doesn't tell you anything about what this image is trying to tell you in a context. For an article about birds that are going extinct, the image text might be bird being hunted by a cat. But for an article about a cat's behavior, the image text might be cat hunting a bird for fun. So make sure that all multimedia elements and images not only have text alternatives, but the text also gives away all the relevant information for the context the multimedia is in. Issue number 2, failure to use available text alternatives for videos and audio files. The necessary types of text alternatives must be carefully considered. And there are various kinds of text alternatives you can include. We have captions. Videos with sound must have captions so that people with hearing impairments can follow along. And make sure that the captions are readable by a machine and not burned into the video, because a screen reader or other assistive devices will not be able to read if the captions isn't implemented properly. We have transcriptions. Audio files and videos must have text transcriptions. And we have audio descriptions. Videos with important visual elements must include audio descriptions for visually impaired users. Issue number 3, missing a bad link text. A common mistake is missing or simply just bad link text. A web app or website is mostly full of links that are either taking you to a new site or taking you to another place on the same site. But we as developers have a tendency to put insufficient text like just read more or icons as link text. And how is a person with blindness supposed to know what more means without having any context? So use descriptive link text for all links. For example, read more about bees for an article about bees. And use ARIA labels for icons. For example, go to homepage wrapped around a house icon. But this is how you meet the VCAG standard. It's sufficient to just have an ARIA label around an icon. But we can make this even more accessible for other people by adding a word as well. If you add a word or two about where the link is taking you, this will actually be visible for everyone and not only those with the screen reader. You can help out a lot of people who don't have the same associations to a house as you. Maybe old Martha thinks that the house means that it's linked to go buy houses, or that it symbolizes leave the house, like a link that takes you out of the site altogether. Or maybe a store or something. So I think that LinkedIn is a great example of how you can do this. I have Facebook on top of LinkedIn and LinkedIn right below, and they have used words for every icon and every link in their menu, so that everyone can know where all the icons are taking them. So yeah, I think it's better, and it makes the user experience way better. Even though maybe you think the Facebook one looks better, but user experience is key, so yeah. Great reminder. Issue number 4, inadequate contrast between text and background, which can make it difficult for people with visual impairments to read, and solving this also makes it better for everyone to read your content. You can get help from scanners, and you can also use the browser's inspect tool. The inspect tool in the browser is a very useful tool. Most browsers let you hover over an element and see the contrast ratio right then and there. In my 2 examples, I wish I could point and click, but yeah. If you see right below accessibility here, you have a contrast number, and the higher the number, the better the contrast. It even has this checkmark symbol and this warning symbol and a name. One is named good contrast ratio and the other is named bad contrast ratio. So just hover over everything you are unsure of has good enough contrast, and this will help you a lot. But remember, text on images and gradients, it's not that easily caught with just computer tools. So you have to manually check all the colors in the background of an image up against the text color you have put on top of it. Issue number 5, insufficient lack of content structuring with proper use of headings and lists. For assistive technologies to work optimally, the web app needs to be written with the correct tags, especially the right use of heading tags. The different numbers are for semantic and not for styling, as so many people use them for. It's important to begin building the web app with the correct tags from the very beginning, because rewriting it will take so much time. My best tip here is that every time you want to use another div, just try to think about another tag to use. HTML is such a rich language. Use nav tags for navigations and use p tags for paragraphs. It has so many different options. Issue number 6, missing keyboard navigation and incorrect focus order, hindering people who rely on a keyboard to navigate your page, people who can't use mouse on a computer. For one easy way to check your page yourself is just to use your own keyboard. Just tab through everything and check if everything is reachable by a keyboard and clickable by key press. A common mistake is to make clickable elements only reachable by mouse and only clickable by mouse click, so make sure you have used the correct HTML tag, and you can use tab index in need. But try to avoid using tab index, because it should be an HTML tag that already solves your issue. And now we are moving on to some of the more structural issues that can't be fixed with just a scanner. We have inadequate testing with accessibility tools and user testing with individuals with various disabilities. It's difficult to develop for challenges you don't have yourself. When you develop something, you tend to take your own experience of the product as a starting point. And you assume that users of screen readers and assisted devices are experts themselves. But they are not. David, a 75-year-old who just started to go blind but has never worked on a computer in his life, doesn't have any better prerequisites than you to know how to navigate a screen reader. You are the expert. You know your app. And if you can't use a screen reader on your own app, how is David supposed to do it? So set up good testing routines. User testing is extremely important. User test on people with disabilities, and make sure that testing with disability devices is part of the estimate. But estimations takes us right to our next issue: lack of accessibility awareness during the design and the development process. Developers tend to forget about accessibility when they estimate. And when the development has started, one may feel that it isn't enough time to incorporate it. Take responsibility and focus on accessibility already in the planning process. Make sure every participant knows how important accessibility is. The designer, the developer, the customer, the editor who are going to publish content on the web app. Everyone needs to be on board. However, the fact that everyone wants to focus on it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone knows how to. And that takes us right to our next issue: inadequate training and awareness among developers and designers about the importance of universal design and how to achieve it. Encourage developers and designers to take courses. There are plenty of easily accessible courses out there that can be done in just a few hours of the workday. They are definitely worth the investment. And to our last issue, economics. People believe it's much more expensive than it is to develop for accessibility. So they fall into the trap of using accessibility overlays instead of coding the website universally accessible from scratch. Design for simpler and cheaper websites. Keep the routines and guidelines in mind and scale down functionality and needs. Don't compromise on accessibility. A black and a white website in Times New Roman without any design at all, with all elements just listed one after the other, is way better than a website that isn't universally designed, because it doesn't exclude anyone from using it. And that was all my issues. You can scan this QR code to read the whole thing if you didn't manage to take notes, or if you want to revisit all these issues. And yeah, some sources, and you can add me on LinkedIn if you want to. Thank you.